on Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Somebody's been digging up the bodies of dead girls.
People are missing.
She wasn't killed by vampires.
Okay, so we got a body snatcher. What does that mean?
There's a new scare in Sunnydale.
What I saw didn't add up to 3 whole girls.
And no one is prepared.
Hello?
For this kind of evil.
Where did he take her?
Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh my god.
Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of Slade, the Buffyverse Revisited. I'm one of your hosts. I'm Goofball Jeremy.
I'm your other host, James.
And we will be diving into Season 2, Episode 2, Some Assembly Required.
Before we get too far into this, Jeremy, let me ask you, are you actually recording this episode?
I am actually recording this episode, unlike last week. If you happen to catch the audio-only version last week, I put a little note ahead of the episode informing everyone that I had made a bit of a boo-boo last week.
A little oopsie, a little goof 'em up, a little oopsie and goof 'em up, if you will.
A goopsie and a oofem gup. But no, what happened? I mean, honestly, I guess it was the couple of months off, and I was just off my game, and I hit the theme song, and I didn't hit record. So luckily, you're recording for the video, and I was able to just rip the audio from that, even though it's not the same quality, because it's being encoded in video and all that. But at least people were still able to hear it.
Right.
And so that was a major goof up last week.
As you know, I listen to the podcast every Monday when it drops. The audio quality it wasn't, to me, and I'm not an audiophile, but there wasn't, in my opinion, a huge noticeable difference between.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't awful. I ran it through the same filters and post production shit that I normally do.
Right.
I could definitely hear, because I'm an audio dork, but I could hear artifacts and stuff in there, and it was a bit tweaked loud and here and there. It was a little goofy, but it was definitely not horrible or unlistenable. Right. So
right. Listen, all I know is you sounded funny and I sounded sexy. So
yeah. I know. We got to live with the cards we're dealt. So why don't you go ahead and I guess we can jump into some dates and deets.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have anything else to discuss, yeah.
Ames J.
I don't. Been a quiet week for me. For you, been a quiet week?
Oh yeah. It's always a quiet week for me. I'm a loser.
Oh wow. Well, I mean, I guess it hasn't been a quiet. We are recording our first few episodes in real time, and this, of course, was the week that some major changes happened here in the U.S. of A. Which we won't address directly because we're not that kind of podcast. But I did kind of have the inclination after I said it's been a quiet week that perhaps that was a wholly disingenuous statement.
Yeah, I mean, I won't say
for the
much. I just want to say
listeners,
fuck the Supreme Court. But anyway, let's jump into some dates and deets.
We are covering, as you previously stated, Buffy the Vampire Slayer Season 2, Episode 2, Some Assembly Required.
We have to say it like I did. Required.
No.
No, I'm not gonna do that.
Our episode director is Bruce Seth Green, not to be confused.
That's Seth Green's evil doppelganger, as we all know.
Yes. You can tell because he has a goatee.
Right.
He's from the Mirror Universe.
Mm-hmm.
And
he wears a sash.
And he wears a sash, yes.
Yeah.
His hair's slicked back.
Sash / cummerbund, whatever you want to call it.
Our episode credited writer this week is Ty King. Our original air date was September 22nd, 1997, and it aired on the now defunct WB network. Our regular cast, as always, includes Sarah Michelle Gellar as Buffy Summers, Nicholas Brennan as Xander Harris, Allison Hannigan as Willow Rosenberg, Charisma Carpenter as Cordelia Chase, David Boreanaz as Angel, Anthony Stewart Head as Rupert Giles. Our guest stars this week include Robia Lamort as Jenny Calendar, Angelo Spizzari as Chris Epps, probably the most Italian name I've heard in quite a while.
Yeah.
Michael Bacall as Eric Gittleson, Ingo Newhouse as Daryl Epps, Melanie McQueen as Mrs. Epps, and Amanda Wilmhurst as Joy. Our episode synopsis reads, Buffy discovers that body parts missing from girls' graves are being used to build the perfect woman.
Well, let's go with the IMDb version, which is, and I just love this, 2 science club nerds use body parts to create the, quote, perfect girlfriend for a teenager who has been brought back from the dead. So not only are they kind of spoiling shit, but they're just like, yeah, 2 science nerds. Fucking
Right.
nerds.
Right.
Yeah.
A couple of jocks.
Yeah.
Decided to write that synopsis.
Yeah.
Fucking science nerds.
Fucking science nerds. God. Oh Lord. Why don't you take it and give us our cold open, James?
I will. We open, of course, at the cemetery.
Of course.
Buffy's chilling on top of a gravestone for a one Stephen Gorshik. She's got a yo-yo. She is
yo-yoing. She's not a yo-yo champion, but she is yo-yoing.
Yeah, she's definitely no yeah. Shit. One of the there I don't even know if you know of them, the Smothers brothers.
Sure.
One of them was phenomenal with a yo-yo.
I didn't know that.
I forget which one it was. Yeah. Yeah, he had a whole act he did on the show. He called himself the Yo-Yo Man, and he would just do yo-yo tricks. But anyway, I digress. She's playing with the yo-yo, and we cut to someone approaching from behind her, and it turns out to be Angel. And she's startled, and she, you don't sneak up on people in a graveyard. You make some noise as you walk. You stomp or yodel, and
as one does.
And they start going back and forth, and they end up fighting about Buffy's shenanigans in the previous episode. In particular, her bronze dance with Xander. And as they're fighting, Steven rises from the grave and attacks. He takes Angel out fairly quickly.
Yeah, he does. Angel just gets housed.
Yeah, by this
baby vampire.
Right. And Buffy ends up staking him with a shovel that Steven himself had grabbed to defend himself against Buffy and Angel. And once Steven is staked, they start to fight again, and Angel is done with the conversation, and he turns and walks away. And Buffy's like, no, I don't think so. You don't just walk away from me like that. And she stomps off after Angel and ends up falling into an open grave and into a casket. And Angel comes back over to make sure she's okay, and he's like, looks like another vampire rose tonight. And at this point, Buffy has stood up in the casket, and she's kind of eye level with the ground, and she's looking around, and she says she doesn't think so. When she gets out and finds a shoe, a woman's shoe, and she comes to the conclusion that the body had been dragged from the grave.
Right.
And that is our cold open.
That is our cold open, and I'd like to make note of the what the fuck who was handling wardrobe this week. What is with this tan members only jacket that Angel's wearing? Oh, I mean, what the fuck? What?
Uh,
Where? Why?
I would also like to point out that, and granted, she wore a lot of skirts in the first season, very reminiscent of a lot of her wardrobe, boots and skirts, is very reminiscent of go-go dancers.
Yeah, yeah. It's
In
very late '90s ish attire.
in the um, but the the skirt she's wearing in this episode has a hemline so short it almost doesn't exist.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah. So yeah, I don't know who's running wardrobe this particular week, but they should be fired. And by fired, I mean actually set on fire.
Yeah, I was a little put off by.
I did happen to see in the trivia notes. This is the one and only time we see Angel in this stupid tan dad jacket. You know, it's like something a dad wears to like, Kings Island in October or something. It's I don't get it.
I would say it's fine. Like I wasn't nearly as bothered by Angel's outfit as I was by like just how entirely inappropriately short Buffy's skirt was.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. The jacket just, the scene is so dark, and Angel is a dark, kind of brooding guy, and then this jacket is so bright, it's like blinding on the screen. I'm like, who the hell picked this? And why were they not killed in public? Anyway, so we come back from what would have been a commercial break. And the Buffinator and Xander walk into the library. That's the next day. They're at school. And Giles is sitting in a chair, facing another chair, and basically asking it out on a date. He's clearly practicing, lines to run on someone that he's wanting to ask for a date. He's not doing so well. He's like, "God, you idiot," and they walk in and startle him, and he gets all flabbergasted and discombobulated, and he's like, "Oh, I don't," and they're like, "Yeah, we know you're trying to basically work on your pickup lines and wanting to ask somebody out," and they're like, "It's obviously Miss Calendar," and he's like, "Well, how do you know that?" And they they basically run through the whole last season's worth of stuff, and Buffy's like, "So all that spells duh," and it's like it's not some big secret. And he gets annoyed and changes the subject and asking about Buffy's hunt the night before. Did Mr. Vampire Man show up? And she's like, yeah, and blah blah blah. And Buffy's talking about fighting the vamp, and she mentions Angel having showed up, and of course Xander's immediately a little pissy about it because super jelly man. And then she kind of tells him the story of what she thinks. Well, she mentions the open grave and everything that she found, and Giles is like, "Oh, so another vampire rose last night?" And she's like, "No, I don't think so." And she kind of tells them what she thinks is going on. The whole somebody's taking bodies for some reason. She doesn't really know why, what's going on, and she did notice that the name on the headstone was Meredith Todd. So Giles is like, "Well, why don't we get Willow to fire up this thing," talking about a computer, and look into this Meredith Todd, find out who she is, what's going on, and go from there.
Yes. And that takes us to the hallway. And we see that science fair registration is happening, and Willow's writing her entry, and a young man, his name's Eric, comes up to her with a camera and starts taking her picture. And
very, very creepily.
Yes, and he turns around and sees another girl and makes a comment about her legs and takes her picture. And Um,
How do you think that would fly in today's school in 2022?
Honestly, I don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
I
Who
really
knows?
don't know.
Absolutely.
Um, so another gentleman, another kid by the name of Chris, comes up and tells Eric to knock it off, and Eric looks at him. He's upset, but he stops. Willow and Chris exchange pleasantries, and he picks up the registration sheet for the science fair, and she's watching him write. And uh, uh, he looks at her, and she says that she was wondering what he was going to do for the science fair. And he asks why, and she says because every year he wins and she takes second, and she wanted to see what she was up against. And he tells her that the key to winning the science fair is that the teacher doesn't if the teacher doesn't understand your experiment, he's going to give you a higher grade, so it looks like he understands your experiment.
Yeah.
And then he reads what Willow's experiment is, and it's the effects of subviolet light spectrum deprivation on the development of fruit flies. And he gives a little chuckle. He's like, that should do it.
Yeah.
At that point, Cordelia shows up, and she says she's signing up under protest, and it turns out that we find out that the science fair participation has been made mandatory this year, which now the whole scenario just doesn't make sense, because if the science fair is mandatory, why are they holding a sign up registration for it?
Right.
Like, so
it's only mandatory if you're a main character of this.
But like
also,
I don't.
Do you remember? I wanted to bring this up. Do you recall Buffy, Xander, or anyone else being forced to do this science fair? I sure don't.
Having to sign up for it? No.
Yeah.
And granted, this is the only scene that makes explicit mention of the science fair, isn't it?
No, I think it's mentioned a couple of other times, but we never see the actual science fair. We never see anyone working on any type of experiments or projects or
right.
Yeah.
So I mean,
it's a total throwaway thing, I guess, just to introduce the science nerds.
Right. And again, I don't like the whole idea that it's I'm fine with the idea that it's mandatory. I don't think a school would ever do that.
Yeah, I mean, you would be there literally for days.
Right.
1,200 science projects.
Right. But I'm willing to get behind that idea. The idea that's goofier to me is that even though it's mandatory, they've set up this like registration event for it.
Yeah, it's mandatory now. Sign your name there.
Right.
But only if your name's Cordelia. No one else has to sign that.
Because I'll tell you what, if I'm told something's mandatory, I'm not going to sign up for it. I'm just going to fucking do it.
Right? Yeah, right. But in school, if I was told something was mandatory, I just didn't come that day. I mean, that's just the way I operated.
Okay.
So, either or works.
So, so Cordy is doing this under protest, and she says she doesn't think anyone should have to do anything educational in school if they don't want to, which is fair. It's a fair argument. I know plenty of people that didn't bother to do anything educational in the course of their school years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can see the part of the argument of I shouldn't have to, like, if you're not into science, if you're not into foreign language, if you're not, it seems a little silly to force, high school students at that point, Like you have to do this. Like, I get it, if they're in elementary school, you want everybody to do a little bit of everything, but in high school, it's like, really, you're mandating a science fair to juniors in high school,
right? But you're not teaching us how to balance our checkbooks or do our taxes.
Yeah. Oh, shit! Don't get me started on that. And paying the teachers $4.95 an hour.
Right.
Oh, yeah, don't get me started.
So Willow reads what Cordelia wrote down, and Cordelia's project is the tomato, fruit or vegetable.
Right.
And Cordy says that she wanted to do something she could finish in a weekend.
Wow. A
Yeah.
weekend to knock that out.
Right. It's a fruit, Cordelia, just so you know.
Yeah. I guess we now know, not Charisma Carpenter, but I guess we now know the mental capacity of Cordelia Chase.
So Eric ends up taking a picture of her and of Cordelia, and she kind of flips out a little bit at him. Not necessarily because he took the picture, but because he took the picture under the wrong lighting conditions.
Bad lighting, yeah.
Yeah. She makes a comment about she didn't think yearbook nerds came out of hibernation until the spring.
Everything has to be nerd. Science nerds, yearbook nerds, you know.
And Eric in a line that rivals only Xander Harris's skeeviest of moments so far, winks at Cordelia and says to her, "It's for my private collection."
Yeah.
Oh.
Right. Could you imagine what that private collection looks like?
Oh my God.
Oy.
So again, Chris chastises Eric, tells him to stop. At that point, Buffy shows up, and Eric takes her picture, and she tells Willow that they need to go. She says it's the bat signal. So they leave. Cordelia watches them go, and she leaves. And Eric says to Chris that, he says, Cordelia's so fine, she'd be just perfect for us. And Chris says, don't be an idiot. She's alive.
And then we zone in on Eric's face where he's like, is she though? So, then we go to Willow, who enters the library, joining everyone else, and gets on that infernal machine, the computer, and starts searching for this Meredith Todd. And of course, immediately and easily finds everything they've ever needed to know about this person with a simple pre-Google search. And so right about that time, Cordelia comes in to ask for Willow's help with her science project. And Willow just immediately says it's a fruit. And Cordelia says she would have asked Chris for his help, but it would stir up too many painful memories of Daryl. And you're just kind of left going, okay. And so they start reading about Meredith and stuff, and Cordelia is just kind of having this conversation with herself, basically, about her inner pain and blah blah blah. And Giles comes out of his office and he just like pats her on the shoulder and says, "There." And then they just continue on the conversation, and she's just like, "Wow." So they discover that Meredith Todd and a couple of her friends had died the week before in a car accident. They were pep rally girls, and they were heading to a game and died in a car accident. And they, from what I could understand, it sounded like they went to they were in the town next to Sunnydale at the like rival high school.
Yeah, they went to Fondren High, I believe it. I've got it in my notes somewhere. Yeah, Fondren. But I don't think it's in another town. I think it's another high school in Sunnydale, because Xander at one point says, what does he say?
Yeah, about the crosstown body count.
He says that Fondren might actually beat Sunnydale in the crosstown body count competition this year, which leads me to believe that Fondren is in Sunnydale, that there's another high school in Sunnydale.
I guess it could be, but all throughout watching this show, I never got the sense that Sunnydale was large enough to have 2 high schools. I don't know.
Right.
Who knows?
But
There's
they
like
have
73 graveyards.
I was gonna say they have at least 7 cemeteries from what I recall.
So who knows? So yeah, they go on talking about discussing Meredith, Todd, and that there doesn't appear to be anything like supernatural about their deaths or anything. It just seemed to be just a random accident. And so they basically come to the decision to go to the cemetery that night and dig up the other 2 girls who were in, because they know Meredith has been taken, to dig up their graves to see if they are empty, just kind of figure out what the hell's going on. And Willow asks Buffy if they should invite Angel. Buffy's kind of annoyed at him still, and she's like, no. Basically, no. I'll just lie and tell him I'm staying in tonight and we're not doing anything, and yada yada. They do invite Cordelia, who is like, oh darn, if only you had brought it up earlier, I would have loved to have canceled. And she's busy with cheerleading practice, you see, so she can't make this. So Willow mentions that she'll bring food, and she's like, I'll bring the little, everybody likes the little powdery white donuts, right? And Xander's like, yeah. Go ahead.
Do you like the powdered donuts?
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
See, I do, but I would much prefer like the cinnamon crumble donuts.
Oh yeah, those are the number one top.
Oh yeah,
nothing touches those.
No,
man, yeah. they have like a name, and I'm drawing a blank, or at least what Hostess always called them, and I can't remember what it was. But yeah, those are the those are the king of donuts, of mini donuts.
Yeah, you go ahead with the scene. I'll look up what Hostess calls those.
Okay. So anyway, that night, as they had said, they're all at the graveyard. Xander and Giles are doing the digging, doing the hard work, and Willow and Buffy are just chilling on a blanket over by a headstone, eating powdery donuts and talking. And
I'm gonna they're called Crunch. They're just called Crunch donuts.
Yes. They are top quality.
Though, yeah, hands down.
So bad for you. So
yeah. Also, before you get too far into the cemetery scene, right before Cordelia leaves, Xander chides her a little bit about zombies eating eating flesh. Yeah. And after she's gone, Giles corrects Xander and says zombies don't eat the flesh of the living. How do zombies work in this universe?
I guess they eat he just was saying that they eat only like maybe the brains or something. I don't know.
And I know
the same thing. So what, do zombies just go around digging up bodies and eating corpses?
Right. So
or maybe they eat roadkill, or maybe they're vegan in that universe.
And I don't. And if you remember, please tell me. I know up until this point we haven't. I don't think they ever cover zombies in the show, do they?
Well, not up to now they haven't. And
right.
I don't know. I don't think they ever do.
Right. I don't recall that they do.
I'm kind of remembering something, but I could be mixing it up with something else in my head. Man, I don't know. I would, if I had to make an answer, I would say no. They don't ever deal with zombies in the show. But
that's probably something I should have looked up before we started recording. But yeah,
so let's come to a decision that in the Buffyverse, zombies are vegans,
and
what they do is they attack people's gardens at night, and they pull carrots and whatnot. And
they're literally no more threatening than rabbits.
Yes, exactly. They're totally turned off by eating meat. Yeah, it's just not their thing.
Okay, please continue.
Okay. So anyway, so Buffy and Willow are kind of talking about Angel and how he's jealous of Xander, and you know, just because he gets to be around her a lot and stuff. And Willow insists and says, "Love makes you do the wacky." And then Buffy asks about this Daryl that Cordelia had brought up before, and she explains that Daryl was Chris's older brother, and he was like this super like well-known, beloved jock there at the high school. Like all the women loved him, all the guys liked him, and he was like the king of the school. But he had died in some type of rock climbing accident. But he was like the king of the football team and everything. And then ever since then, Chris had been really hadn't been the same. He became really quiet and withdrawn. And she said she even heard her mother doesn't even leave the house anymore. Their mother. And that Cordelia had liked him. Was kind of into him, was wanting to be with him, of course, because he was the top dog of the school. And this all happened 2 years prior, by the way.
And can I, while there's a little break here after your by the way, did you, because I did when watching the episode, and I realized it's to drive the plot along, but this was such an out of left field conversation. Like, in my opinion,
because
Buffy
Cordelia had just very quietly, very quickly just mentioned a Daryl. And right. It seemed like no one was even paying attention to her in the library.
Exactly. 100%.
And now Buffy's like, so tell me about this Daryl.
Right. And that's exactly what I thought. Like, as soon as Buffy brought it up, I was like, what? This is literally like practically a throwaway line that Cordelia made in the library that nobody was seemingly paying attention to hours ago. And Buffy's all like, so tell me about this guy. Like, what? Yeah.
And it makes me wonder if there was some cut dialogue or part of a cut scene,
right,
that they had, I don't know, for whatever reason had removed. But yeah, she all of a sudden seems very interested in, tell me about this Daryl.
Right. And I can sorry. In researching for the episode, I didn't find anything or references to any cut scenes or cut dialogue like that. So it was just odd.
I don't know, just poor writing then. I was trying to cover for them, but I guess that's just poor writing.
Right. And I mean, like I said, like I get it, like it's to drive the main plot along, but it was just so completely out of left field.
Yeah, they should have had it be a little bit less than a throwaway line in the library. Like,
right.
It should have been towards the end of their conversation to where she was, and she started to talk and then about it, but then had to leave. And so now Buffy's trying to get from Willow, like, she never got to finish this story. What's with this Daryl thing? And
right.
But again, who are we to tell these fantastic Hollywood writers anything?
Right. And also, I real quick, looked it up here about zombies in the Buffyverse, and there's quite a list of canonical appearances.
Was it all in the comics though?
Yes,
that's what I figured. Because they continued the show with the comics. They did season 8, season 9. I think they're still doing it.
Right. But and I'll look more once we're done recording and maybe update in the future. I can't find anything as far as like what zombie characteristics are in the Buffyverse.
We have decided they are clearly vegan.
Vegan. All right. That's all. Please continue.
Well, there's not much left. at one point they mention, this would go a lot quicker if you girls would help, and Buffy says, how does she say that? I didn't put it down word for word, but that she's a
She says, I'm
I'm a
paraphrasing.
traditionalist, or
I'm an old-fashioned gal. I believe men dig up the bodies and women do the cooking, something like that.
something like that.
Yeah.
And they're like, damn it. Well, then they finally, Giles hits the casket with the shovel, and he's like, okay, we're there. And, Buffy, gets up and goes over and jumps down the hole with him. And Giles and Xander are both too chicken shit to open the casket. And Buffy's like, get out of the way. And she goes over and she opens it up. And we don't know, because then it goes to what would have been a commercial. And when we come back, James,
we see Cordelia and a couple other girls leaving the cheerleading practice, and Cordelia's telling them, if we don't get this down by tomorrow, no one's going to be led by our cheers, and tells them to practice. And they all get into their cars, and Cordelia keeps walking to hers. And
just really quick.
Yeah.
So the girl she's with was two girls, I think, is who
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. They seem to be parked, like right there by the exit of, I'm assuming, the gymnasium where they've been practicing. Right. And for some reason, Cordelia is parked in another zip code on possibly another planet.
Right.
To make this more suspenseful, I guess.
Right.
Because they're just parked right there, and then there's 379 parking spaces empty around their car, but she is parked, like I said, in another zip code.
And let's go ahead and presume for a moment that this is the parking lot at Sunnydale High, because why wouldn't it be?
Sure, that's what I assumed.
Right. And again, it's for the purposes of storytelling, Cordelia is parked further away to build suspense. But we all know that someone of Cordelia's status, even though it wouldn't be in writing or anything, she would have primo parking in that lot.
See, I hadn't even thought of that, and you are 1,000,000% exactly. She would have the princess parking spot.
Right. Like, it wouldn't matter. The argument can be Cordelia probably shows up, late for school, or when the furthest parking spot available. It doesn't matter.
No one takes the princess's parking spot.
Exactly.
Her family is rich and powerful, and
she is top of the heap in that school, definitely. It would be an unwritten rule: no one takes Cordelia Chase's parking spot, and that parking spot would be the closest one to the school entrance.
Yes, if Sunnydale
or whatever entrance she chose to.
Wherever she. Yeah, if Sunnydale High School was the human centipede, she is the very front. She's at the front. Okay.
Her mouth would not be sewn to anybody else's asshole.
No, there will be no anus to mouth sewing for Cordelia. No.
You just have a way of taking it in a direction that I never would have imagined taking.
I try to take things to a level that most humans wouldn't even think of, let alone if they did, let alone say. I make sure to say it.
Yeah. Okay.
I feel like that's my lot in life.
Okay. At least you've found your path.
Yes. Yeah. I found my passion, and I'm happy.
Good. Okay. So the other two drive off as Cordelia is walking to her car, and of course she hears something over by the fence, and she stops to look around, and she's hello, which this isn't just a Buffy thing. And I know countless other people have talked about this. What why do people always do shit like this?
Yeah,
It,
yeah.
In like, hello, look, Johnny, is that you? Fuck that.
Yeah,
If
if this
you
is a
heard-
joke, Xander Harris, I'm going to be really mad. And then she
Right.
drops her keys, and they
Right.
not only, fall, they somehow go under the car about 14 feet where she can't even reach it by getting down on her hands and knees.
Right.
So
Like,
totally
this-
against the laws of physics, but
This always bothers me in horror movies, and I love horror movies, but it always bothers me. People hear something, they're clearly scared by it, and they take the time to yell out hello or call someone's name or no, get in your car. Get in your car. Get out of the house. Get into the house. Whatever. Stop calling for people.
well, it's like in the Friday the 13th when you hear that,
Right.
and the person's like, "Huh? What? Where?
Right.
Who is that?"
Right.
Fuck that. I'm running so goddamn fast at that point. The movie's over. Credits are rolling.
Right.
Jason, you don't kill nobody because that motherfucker is gone.
Right. But you do realize that in universe, they're not hearing that music.
But they seem to, because every time it happens, the person will like jerk and like look around like, huh? What was
Right.
that?
Well,
did you hear that?
That's because the music almost always accompanies them hearing
Some type of footsteps.
Yeah,
or,
Jason
yeah.
doing something in the movie.
Yeah. But I'm just like, why?
you're
You're in a creepy
right.
lake where motherfuckers have been getting not just killed, but like horrifically massacred.
Right.
Why are you even still there? I would be totally like 20 miles up that road hitchhiking.
Right.
And
and in a lot of those movies, if you'll recall, they don't even like the final girl doesn't even realize that everyone else is dead till towards the end of the movie when she starts randomly finding the staged bodies.
Yeah, like one's like stuck to a wall.
Right.
And yeah, I'm like, man, he spends a lot of time like staging his exhibitions of murder. And but anyway, back to Buffy.
But just one more, in my mind, if I'm in a situation like that and all of a sudden all of my friends or the other people I'm with go missing, whether I found their dead body yet or not, I'm probably leaving.
Yeah, and I'm not looking for them.
Right.
I'm too old for that shit. I'm not putting a search party on.
Right. I'm going to the local authorities. I'm gonna be like, listen, I was out at the old campground. The people I was with all started to disappear. I don't know what the fuck happened to them. I'm not fucking going back.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna leave. I'm just making the report right now.
Right.
You guys are on your own. I'm going back to Delaware.
Right.
So fuck this. Fuck
I wasn't particularly close to any of those people.
No.
Peace out.
I've only known them for like a year. We were camp counselors together. I mean, I don't even know any of their middle names. So fuck this. You know what's up. I'm out.
But yes, so Cordelia has dropped her keys and they've managed to roll under her car as she's approached.
This makes me want to bring up the other thing that I was up during this. So this is what 90. This is 97, right?
97.
Okay, I feel comfortable in stating this. Then Cordelia's rich.
Yes.
Cordelia's parents. Well, I should say Cordelia's parents are rich.
Yes.
She is therefore a rich kid.
Yes.
She has a nice car. You can see it.
Mm-hmm,
it's definitely some type of import. Nice car. Nice sedan. When she gets to said sedan, she's putting the keys into the door to open it.
That car 100% would have remote locks.
Thank you. That car 1,000,000%. She has a key fob, and would have been like a click, and because even if it didn't come standard, everybody put that on their cars back in the day.
Right.
Like the car alarm thing that would tie into the lock system.
Right. People that could afford it definitely would have done that. And oh yeah.
That drove me crazy. I'm like, why is she? And then she turned the key. She had it one way and then she turned it another way. I'm like, no, that car 100% had a double cut key that you could put in either way. You know what I'm saying? Like they did not make single cut keys had not made those since like '92.
Right.
You
Right.
know,
Again, especially like you said, on a higher end, nice import
yeah.
car that
And I know I'm
rich.
nitpicking, but damn it, that
No,
kind
you're
of shit
right.
drives me crazy.
That rich parents would have 150% bought for their spoiled daughter. Yes.
Yeah, because she would have just jogged at that point when she heard the noise and been like bloop bloop, and then
Right.
jumped in the car, gone. And Angel would have been like, "Well, fuck, we're okay," and that would have been credits.
Right. Well, and now you just spoiled the suspense. Who was stalking Cordelia? God damn it, Jeremy.
That's what I do. That's how I roll.
But yeah, she's digging around trying to get her keys, and she sees shoes approaching under the car, and she gets up to run, and the person follows her and walks past a dumpster, and once
Has some very strange boots on too. Did you notice that?
Yeah,
they have like these buckle things hanging off of them. I thought it was a chick. I really did. Like they looked like oh, what were those fucking things called in the '90s? They were these boots that girls would wear, and they had like the buckle looking things on them. I don't know when you talk about female fashion, but
the only boots I'm aware of are the boots with the fur.
Boots with the fur?
No, nothing. Never mind. It's a song. Yeah. It's a song lyric.
Oh, okay, that went way over my head. But yeah, I don't know. I thought it was a female, and I don't know. Anyway,
so
till I saw the radical tan jacket.
So the person walks past the dumpster, and once they're past, the lid of the dumpster opens, and Cordelia is hiding inside the dumpster. And she looks around to make sure the coast is clear, pushes the lid all the way up, and turns around again to get out, and boom, there's Angel.
Yeah, with his radical tan, members only dad jacket.
And
please, guys, if you are if you're not actually watching this episode or haven't seen it or whatever, please watch it. Just tell me that I'm right. Write in and tell me how right I am and how stupid that jacket looks. It's like I don't know. It's like putting He-Man in a scarf. I don't get. It's just stupid.
I don't know that it. So here's the thing. I always got the impression that Angel's style, even in the modern day,
is not members only tan dad jackets.
No, but see, I didn't look at that as like and see a members only tan dad jacket. I always got the impression that his style, even in the modern day, was more reminiscent of was more of a callback to the 1950s.
What, like Fonzie?
Not even that cool.
Oh!
But that's always the impression I got from the way he dresses.
I mean, I think in the first season and early in this second season, they're kind of trying to figure out what his style is.
Right.
But goddamn, this fucking missed the mark really badly. And obviously somebody agreed with me because it literally said in the trivia notes, this brown jacket was never seen again. Like, I'm sure Joss Whedon had it burned and the person fired and probably harassed somehow.
Well, and even outside of the character of Angel, I don't necessarily know that brighter colors work on. And I'm not a fashion designer or anything like that. Clearly,
you're not.
No, but I don't know that brighter colors in general work on someone like David Boreanaz.
Well, not just that, but such a dark show because
so
many of these scenes are shot dark, very dark.
Right.
And it's just the type of show it is. And it just that makes that kind of thing just stick out like a sore thumb. And it just looked, I don't know. I know I keep harping on it, but it bothered me from the first scene we saw him, and it bothered me to the end. I kept thinking, take this fucking jacket off. I swear to God, can't something happen to this jacket? Like it gets ripped off of him or something. I don't know.
So
Clearly, I'm bugged by this.
yeah, she turns around and Angel's there, and of course she's startled, and he's surprised to see her. He's like, oh, this is the last place I'd expect to see you hanging out,
Yeah.
and she's thankful that it's him, but is also quick to ask why the fuck he was following her. And he's like, well, I wasn't really sure it was you. I'm looking for Buffy. And she tells him that she's at the graveyard, and he says, well, she said she'd be at home, and which raises a question. If Buffy told Angel that she was going to be at home, why the fuck was Angel at Sunnydale High looking for Buffy?
Well, I got the impression that he probably went to her house and she
Okay.
wasn't there, like she had said she was going to be, and he was just like, "What the fuck?" So maybe he went. But I don't know why his first go-to would be the high school.
Right.
Because when is she ever there, like after
Outside.
hours?
Right.
You know? Were I Angel? Okay, let me ask you this: had this been you, where would have been the first place you would have went
to look for Buffy?
Yeah, at night when she's. Not.
I would have gone to a cemetery.
Okay,
one of the cemeteries.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you. And that's where she was.
Right.
So yeah, I don't think that's too wild to say.
Right. I mean, especially because it's early enough that Cordy and the other cheerleaders are just getting out of cheer practice, which presumably isn't going to run into ungodly hours of the night.
Yeah.
So
presumably.
Right. So it's still early enough to not be like, oh, it's late. I'm gonna go to Buffy's house to see if she's there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because every other time we've seen him just randomly show up at Buffy's window, it's the dead of night.
Yeah.
And
he just.
But anyway. Right. But anyway, I hadn't considered that he had probably gone to her house, and she.
Yeah, he did his little quick in the window thing and was like, "Hey," and then nobody was there, and he's like, "Oh fuck!"
Right.
So he had to quietly and like sad leave.
Right. He was like, "Fuck! I ruined my cool entrance. No one's even fucking here.
No one's here for it."
So yeah. So Cordy's like, "Oh, what a rascal! She lied," and she's like, "Well, my night's free." And she tries to get out, and her skirt is stuck. So she reaches behind her to get it loose, and she does, and she ends up picking up what her skirt was caught on, and it's a severed hand. She screams and drops it.
She doesn't just scream. She fucking
Jamie Lee Curtis.
She PTSD. Like I just saw the murder of my whole family in front of me screams, and it's just a hand. I don't know. I'm not saying it's cool, but Jesus, she went
like you're so casual about it. It's just a hand.
I know, but I mean, I don't know. Anyway, so the Scooby Gang returns from their graveyard trip back to the library, and both coffins were in fact empty. So, and they see Angel and Cordy there. And of course, Cordy's all hugged up on Angel, and she's so scared, and she's just been so traumatized. And Angel and Xander's, they're like Angel, Xander, James, Xander. They're very stiff and unhappy with each other, clearly. And basically, he knows that Buffy lied. She tries to kind of keep it going at first, but he's like, I was at your house and blah, blah, blah. And Cordelia's told me everything. And so.
See, that would have, if I had been paying more attention to the episode, that would have answered my previous question of why was Angel looking for her at the high school.
Yeah. And, he tells the gang that they found parts. No whole bodies, but parts from a couple at least. And so they kind of let Angel in on the whole thing at this point. And yeah, this is where Giles is kind of like, well, you know, why would there be, the cemetery's 5 miles away. Why would there be body parts in the dumpster here at the school? And Buffy is basically like, well, you know, if they go here, you know, they're already coming here kind of thing. And he's like, oh, but then he's, you know, they have a brief conversation. I have a clip of it. I was gonna play that clip. Okay. Of basically Giles not understanding, like, because he says, who would have, well, Angel mentions that this was not like some random sloppy hack job, like whoever made these cuts and stuff, like they were precise, they knew what they were doing. So here's that clip.
This was no hatchet job. Whoever made those incisions really knew what they were doing.
Yes, really. What student here is going to be that well versed in physiology?
I can think of 5 or 6 guys in the science club. And me.
So, Will, come clean. Promise to never do it again, and we'll call it a night. He joked.
Willow, why don't you get these guys' locker numbers and we can do some checking?
So, like Buffy said, you know, she wants Willow to get the locker numbers of these guys. And which, when she says that, these guys, like, how does she know which people she wants to? I guess she meant all of the people that Willow could think of in the science class who could make these precision cuts, is I guess.
Right.
Which
even
is
because for one, Willow does say 5 or 6 guys in the science club, and 2, keep in mind this is 97 when writers weren't nearly as cognizant of gender pronouns as they need to be nowadays.
Yeah. So they Willow goes off to the computer again. I guess she just types in www.gimmesome-lockercombinations.com, and somehow she just pulls up their locker combinations. And because I remember, this is off the subject, but I remember when I was in high school, like if you would somehow, because this happened to me once or maybe twice, where I would just completely forget my freaking locker combination, and I'd have to go to like one of the offices, I don't know, but it was like a big deal, a big ordeal for them to like find. It would be like buried in some file and a filing cabinet, but here and they're just doop, 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 doop. Nope, here's all the locker combinations. I don't.
At the very if nothing else, at the very least, Sunnydale High is on the cutting edge of technology.
Your cutting edge is fucking right.
Clearly,
they have everything online in an unsecured website. That
to be fair, if I was a school administrator and I had to keep track of everybody's locker combinations, I would put that shit in a spreadsheet.
Well, yeah, but you would also, well, okay, because we're going to assume that Willow's a super hacker, so.
Well, I'm also going to assume that she's probably she's not just on. She's probably on an intranet, not an internet.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like she never has to spend very much time, quote unquote, hacking anything. She's just like, okay, there's everything you've ever wanted to know about this person. Like most shows, it's not like this show is the only one guilty of this. I mean, one of our favorite show, Highlander, was very bad about this, especially in the first couple of seasons. But anyway,
Detective Duncan MacLeod.
Yes, I'm going. Are you hacking on your computer again?
Hacker Macker.
Yeah. So they let's see, where did I leave off? Oh, the clip. Yeah. So they let's see, where did I leave off? Okay, the group decides to start investigating these guys, but Cordelia insists that she's leaving because she's too fragile. She needs to go home. She needs to clean up, burn her clothes, etc. And she asks Angel to accompany her. And even though he doesn't really want to, can't think of a way to get out of it. Kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. So they go off, and Buffy's clearly miffed.
I love the looks that SMG and David Boreanaz exchange with each other in this scene. Like
They were always good at doing that.
Yeah,
they always had great chemistry on screen together too.
Like it's just the very subtle like Angel's like, I don't want to go with her look, and Buffy's like, I don't want you to go with her, but I don't know what to do about this.
Yeah, neither one of us can come up with anything quick enough. And
right.
It's like, okay, great, I'll drive.
Yeah, I absolutely love just their chemistry in general, and not just them, but any actors that are able to convey like so much with just facial expressions and not dialogue.
Well, especially I think when two actors, whether it's a romantic thing or it's just a friendship, when they have such good chemistry on camera together,
right,
and they're able to just act that way with each other, and you can get that as a viewer,
without dialogue.
Yeah, and you're just like, oh yeah, I know that look. I've given that look to someone before,
yeah.
So then we go to the Epps household. This would be Chris and the dearly departed Daryl's home, and we see their mom sitting in a recliner there, staring at the television, smoking a cigarette that has a ash on it like this long, and I just keep going, ash the fucking cigarette. But anyway, so she's smoking away, and so you can clearly tell this is the 90s because Chris comes out and he's like, he's trying to talk to her, but she's just completely zombified, staring at this TV screen. And he's like, I'm going out, Mom. And she doesn't even look at him or say anything. She just keeps smoking her 3-mile-long ash cigarette. And he says, what does he say? I'll be back soon.
Something like
something along those lines. And she still doesn't respond. She still doesn't look at him. And he just he's like, so he just goes on out the front door. And then the camera kind of comes around, and you see that she's watching old videos of dearly departed Daryl playing football, and she's just transfixed. So clearly she loved Daryl
and hates Chris
and can't give a fuck about Chris.
This is something that happens.
Sitting there just smoking and blowing it on him, and I don't know.
Clearly. This is something that I would almost consider it a trope in television movies at this point, where you've got a multiple sibling family, and one of the siblings dies, and one of the parents or both of the parents, whatever, just kind of becomes completely despondent to the remaining children.
And I'm like, well, wait a minute, who's paying like bills and who's like cooking food? Because she's just sitting there in this nightgown, zombie. Her hair is looks like she stuck her finger in a light socket, and she's just smoking this cigarette and staring. I'm like,
right,
yeah,
and like I 100, I get that the death of a child is awful and traumatic.
Don't have any.
Well, I mean, I can't even imagine what it's like, as I don't have kids myself. But
for me, it'd be a joyous occasion. I hate kids.
Wow.
That's right. I am not kidding.
My God.
I am not kidding.
I just so I can't imagine what it would be like to lose a child. But that being said, I have to imagine that no matter how traumatic it is, you wouldn't become completely despondent to your remaining children.
Well, maybe she always hated him.
Maybe.
Maybe Daryl was always the favorite, and she always mistreated poor Chris there, and
right.
Who the fuck knows? She looks like an oddball, so
true.
I wouldn't put it past her. She won't ash her cigarette, so That drives me insane.
And that will brings us back to Sunnydale, and we're in the halls now, and they're all searching lockers. They've each taken a locker, and they're searching them, and Buffy finds is going through Eric's locker, and she doesn't find anything there, and oh no, I'm sorry. She's at Eric's locker, and everyone else is going through other people's locker. And Willow finds a locker with some old issues of Scientific American in them. Xander opens Chris's locker and finds a bunch of books about anatomy. He finds Gray's Anatomy, Mortician's Desk Reference, Robichaux's Guide to Muscles and Tendons.
How to Dissect a High School Girl.
No, that one's not in there. No,
okay,
no.
okay.
That was blacklisted.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not allowed to carry that.
Are they in
the libraries?
Was Sunnydale in Texas?
Giles reaches into the locker and he pulls out a newspaper. And it's folded up, and he unfolds it, and it's a picture of the 3 girls that died in the car accident that we had previously seen.
Or Meredith.
Yes. And of course, Giles says, he's like, it's fair to say that Chris is involved, obviously.
You think, Giles?
And Xander's like, okay, he's into corpses, but we don't know why. And Buffy says, yes, we do. And she opens Eric's locker door so that everyone can see it. And there's a picture collage of a woman, and it's made up from various parts of women from various pictures. And we cut to Chris's basement, and Eric is singing My Girl while Chris is working on a body. And they have a little back and forth about getting the body finished, and Chris says he's working on it, and Eric says he is too, at which point he hangs up some newly developed pictures of Buffy, Willow, and Cordelia. And that will take us back to Sunnydale High, and we're on the upper balcony walkway. And Buffy walks up to Willow and Xander, who are sitting there on the railing, and Xander asks if there's any sign of Chris or Eric, and Buffy says not yet. And she questions why anyone would want to make a girl, and Xander says, you mean when there's so many pre-made ones just laying around?
Yeah, pre-made.
And he quips, the things we do for love, and Buffy says this has nothing to do with love. And Xander says maybe not, but I'll tell you this. People don't fall in love with what's right in front of them. And Willow and Buffy exchange a look. And Xander keeps going on about, people want the dream and what they can't have, and the more unattainable and the more attractive. And Willow says, well, for Eric, the unattainable would include everyone that's alive. They walk down the stairs, and Buffy says Eric's sick enough for something like this, but why Chris? You know, he seems like a a decent human person. And Willow says she doesn't know, but after his brother Daryl, you know, died, things were really hard on him, and he talked about death a lot, and maybe he just wanted to get, you know, one up on it. Um, uh, Buffy says, you know, but you know, you can't do that. You know, it's not doable. You know, making someone from scraps and, you know, bringing them to life. And Willow says, well, my science project's definitely coming in second this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Underneath Raising the Dead. Yeah.
And Xander sees Giles and he says, speaking of love, and Willow says, we're talking about the reanimation of dead tissue. And Xander says, do I deconstruct your segues?
Yeah. He always has the best lines.
So they all approach Giles and they're talking, and Giles is distracted, and like they're trying to talk about the situation at hand, and Giles is distracted, and so they end up segueing into giving him advice on, you know, how to ask Miss Calendar out, and they walk away, and Jenny approaches Giles, and they continue their, you know, their way into the school, and they're talking, and Giles is getting ready to finally ask her out, and the bell rings, and Jenny says she's got to get into the class and set up, and so she goes in, and you know, he's chastising himself for not being quicker about asking her out, and she pops her head back out of the class and it basically asks him out. She's like, you know, if whatever it was you had to talk to me about is so important, how about if, you know, we just get together at the football game, you know, and we can talk there. And she ends up going back into the classroom, and they have a date for the football game after class or after school.
And Giles is jumping for joy.
He is.
So the gang starts, excuse me, the gang starts investigating. Willow comes up with some theories about how Chris and Eric are planning to animate this girl they're building. Electricity, shots of adrenaline, etc. And then Buffy finds out that both of them are missing from school today. They are not there, which may mean they're done with this project, but Giles doesn't think so. He's talked to a reporter who told him that the police sorted through the remains that they found in the dumpster there at the school, and they found 3 heads, which means apparently they still need a head for this body they're trying to construct. But judging by everything else that's missing and whatnot, it sounds like that's the only thing they're missing is a head. So we cut back to I guess Chris's basement, and he and Eric are arguing. Eric's insisting that they need to get the head soon, or the body will be unusable. I'm not sure why. I guess it'll rot. I don't know, but it's going to become unusable very soon if they don't get the head and get this thing animated. And Eric is saying, you know, we don't have time to wait around for another, you know, lucky accident. And Chris is just like, no, I'm not going to kill. I will not kill. Take a life, blah, blah, blah. And he turns and he starts talking to somebody that's kind of standing in the shadows there. And he says, you know, please don't make me do this, blah, blah, blah. And then a man comes out of the shadows, and he's gross. He's got cut, like stitched together patches everywhere, and he looks hideous like a zombie. And Dun dun dun! It's Daryl, his brother who had died in the rock climbing deal. He's apparently Chris has done this before, and he brought his brother back. And Daryl reminds him. He said, he says, "You promised me that I wouldn't be alone," and blah blah blah. And Daryl won't go out in public or anything, and he's just kind of hiding. He's just in hiding forever now. He looks hideous, and basically, this is, Bride of fucking Frankenstein here. He wants a bride that he can be with for all time, and then hiding. And he basically guilts the shit out of his little brother, and finally Chris agrees. He's like, okay, fine, I'll do it. And so Eric's, he's a creepy little fucker, and he's happy about it. So he puts down a bunch of pictures, and Daryl looks at him eagerly, and he's like, this one. And he pulls it. Eric lifts it up and looks at it, and the camera sees it. And it's Cordelia. And he starts singing or humming My Girl again, and cuts out the picture, and then cuts off the head at the very end. And so, yeah, he's a creepy little fucker. That's clear at this point. Chris is more of a reluctant, go along guy, but Eric is clearly a psychopath.
Right. That takes us back to the library, and Will is talking about how she checked the obits, and there's nothing that would be a likely candidate for Eric and Chris as far as the head goes. And Willow comments that the reason they couldn't use the 3 heads they previously had is because of formaldehyde. And Giles points out that, it accelerates the decay of the brain cells. And Willow says, yeah, after a couple of days, they're useless. So they would need something really fresh.
Yeah.
So Giles remembers, or Buffy tells them to go to Eric's, and her and Giles are going to go to Chris's, and then they'd all meet up. And Giles remembers he can't because he has to go to the game with Miss Calendar. And
why can't he just tell Miss, because she knows everything that's going on, that's actually she's in on the whole thing. Why can't he just say, hey, this is what's happening, and just make her part of it? Why does it have to be this big? I don't know. It just seems like unnecessary drama.
Because he's trying to lay pipe.
I know, but it's like, can he just be? What's he gonna lay pipe at a fucking high school football game? Can he just be like, yo, zombie?
Why not? I know plenty of high schoolers that laid pipe at a high school football game. So
yeah, but I think it probably wouldn't go over too well if a couple of 40-year-old high school officials were laying some pipe on the bleachers at the high school football game. Call me crazy.
So Buffy tells him it's fine, that they'll take care of it. And that they'll all meet up at the football game at some point. Willow asks Buffy not to be too hard on Chris. He's not a vampire, and Buffy says no, he's just a ghoul. And they all exit the library. And we cut to Chris's house, and Buffy's at the door, and surprisingly, in my opinion, from what we've seen already, Chris's mom actually answers the fucking door when Buffy knocks.
And seems somewhat lucid.
Right.
Yeah. I didn't notice. Was she still smoking a cigarette?
I believe so, yes.
Oh, okay.
So Buffy introduces herself as a friend of Chris's and says she needs to talk to him, and asks if he's home. And his mom doesn't say anything and just walks back inside and sits down. So Buffy comes in and closes the door and asks again if he's home. And his mom doesn't answer Buffy. She just goes on about the video she's watching, which is, of course, one of Daryl's games. It's the Westbury game from November 17th of 1995, where Daryl rushed 185 yards for 4 touchdowns. And she says he was the MVP and he made all city that season. And Buffy's like, yeah, that was great. Is Chris home? And his mom says she doesn't know and then asks if there was school today. And then she quickly gets distracted and tells Buffy to watch the movie. And it's more footage of Daryl, and Buffy spots the basement door and with the signs that say keep out and no admittance, and Chris's mom says that Daryl would have been 19 next week. And Buffy goes and heads down the basement, and she's looking around and she walks over to a table and she sees the pictures of herself and Willow, and she finds the plans for the body with Cordelia's face pasted on top of it. And
Realize Cordy is the target.
Yes. Hold on. I lost my spot.
Well, someone's creeping up behind her from the shadows.
Yeah. And but the door opens and they both look up, and Buffy hops out the basement window and Daryl watches her go. At which point we cut to the girls' locker room.
I just wanted to throw a quick little tidbit out there. You know that footage that they're watching, or that the mother's watching on television, the football footage. Mm-hmm. That's actual footage of the guy who plays Daryl. That's actually footage of him in high school playing football.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, no, I lied about that. It's not true. Go ahead.
Okay. I was gonna say, I'm gonna need to know where you're finding your information, because I didn't see any of that when I was researching trivia and whatnot.
I just want to fuck with you, so you go ahead.
That's good. Nice. I'm glad you clarified that, because my next response was gonna be, does anybody really care?
Like I always do to you, yeah. That would have been good had I given you the chance to do so.
So we cut to the girls' locker room, and Cordelia's putting on her lip gloss, and her lip gloss be popping.
And we know what that means, right?
No, what does that mean?
I don't know. I was hoping you knew.
No.
I don't know about girls. So.
Me either.
Okay. All right.
That's why we're single.
Carry on. Carry on.
Joy walks in, the cheer squad leader, who we've met before. We met her in the first season.
Is she the? Oh,
yeah.
But
it's the same.
See, I thought Cordelia was the leader now, because I thought that girl, Joy, I thought she was a senior the previous season.
Nope. I mean, she might have been, and the writers
failed
just
and has to come back.
Right. I mean, she is a cheerleader, so
yeah. So clearly,
right away. I apologize to any current and/or former cheerleaders that might be listening.
Let's be honest.
That was out of pocket.
Do you really think there would be a single solitary person who either currently is, or was in the past a cheerleader listening to this fucking show?
Listen, you know what? I want to make sure our bases are covered.
Okay.
So I'm just going to apologize. I didn't mean it.
Yes, he did.
So Joy asks Cordelia if she's coming, and Cordy says, yeah, I'll be right out. And She finishes putting on her lip gloss, and Chris appears.
And you know what
her.
that means, don't you? When they're doing lip gloss.
No, we just went over this.
Okay, yeah. I just
Neither
want
one
to
of
see if
us.
you knew what it meant.
Neither one of us know what.
Oh, yeah.
I presume in this scenario she's putting it on because she's about to go cheer at the football game and wants to look good.
Oh, I don't even know what lip gloss is.
Would be my.
What the point of it is.
It makes your lips look shiny and more inviting.
Oh,
for the smooches.
I don't think I want to kiss anybody with shit all over their mouth.
You want to kiss someone with dry ass cracked lips?
Yes, dry and crackly as possible.
Wow.
Wait, what? Wait. Lip gloss doesn't make your lips not. I thought that was chapstick.
Chapstick is to help keep your lips from drying out. Lip gloss makes your lips shiny, gives them a little shine, makes them look moist, for lack of a better term.
Well, this shows how much attention I've paid to various females I've dated through the years. None. Zero.
That's why you're single.
That's why I am now single. Because I have paid no attention in almost 40 years.
So anyway, Chris pops up behind her in the mirror, like the Uber creeper he is.
Yeah.
And of course she's scared and she turns to face him and she's like, "Oh my God, you scared me. What are you doing here?" And he can't look at her. And he like looks away from her and she's like, "Is something wrong?" And she screams as we watch Eric put a bag over her head and
put a fucking bag over her head and like pull it tight, like, oh, they're just going straight for murder right now.
Yeah.
And
drag her off as Chris looks away in horror. And we cut to the hall, and Buffy comes around the corner and sees Joy and another girl coming down the stairs, and she's all like, "Where's Cordelia, bitches?" And Joy's
top kicks a motherfucker.
and Joy's like, Cordelia has a game to think about. She doesn't need losers like you. And that is a direct quote that I wrote down because I just thought it was very funny.
Yeah. Even though didn't Buffy save that bitch's life last season?
Yep.
Like literally.
You think she cares? You think that bitch cares?
Get away from me, life-saving loser.
So Joy tries to leave and Buffy stops her and she's like, "I'm sorry, what did you say?"
Yeah.
And
then what they didn't show was Buffy beat the brakes off this bitch off camera.
Right.
I mean, fucking curb stomped her there on the steps. Whew, it was brutal.
Yeah, and of course they couldn't show that because Buffy's supposed to be the hero.
Yeah,
and,
but she had to get the information somehow.
Right, and it wasn't until more recent in television history where your heroes could also be, bad guys.
Yeah, so. I mean, Joy's never gonna walk again.
No.
She's out of the cheer squad.
Oh yeah, 100. Cordelia is
crippled loser bitch.
Right, Cordy is 110% cheer squad leader now because Joy's crippled.
And she was already the apex anyway of the pyramid.
Right. And does Cordelia ever thank Buffy?
Yeah,
No.
Exactly.
No. Never once do we see Cordelia be like, "Hey, Summers, thanks for crippling Joy for me."
Yeah, thanks for the beat down from Chi-Town.
Right.
That's dope, yo.
Anyway, we cut back to the locker room and Eric has Cordelia on the floor and he's trying to tie her hands and
very badly, I want to add.
Right. But also like Eric is literally like half the size of Cordelia.
Yeah, he's a very small little
Cordelia's easily got like a foot and a half to 2 feet.
Yeah, and she could probably just spin around and just fucking uppercut him and he would be done for like an hour.
Right. And Buffy comes running down the hall and looks in the locker room and She sees what's going on, and Eric sees her and gets up to defend himself, and Buffy comes running in and takes him out.
Straight up drop kicks his ass.
Right. Kicks
And
him
I'm like,
right
wait
in
a
the
minute.
mush.
If she
as you
drop
would say.
kicked him in the mush with her Slayer feet, he would be fucking dead.
Would he even have a mush anymore?
Because he's only like you said, he's only like 5'3", $110, soaking wet
Right.
with rocks in his pockets.
Right.
Like he would be fucking. His head would have come off his body, and she'd have been like, "Oh fuck."
Right. Which begs the question: do we think? And I think the answer is obvious. Do we think Buffy pulls her punches?
Oh yeah, of course.
When she's fighting regular people.
Yes, but how
I
fucking
agree.
interesting would this show be
if she didn't?
No, not saying if she didn't. That would be a totally different show. That would be The Boys.
I was just gonna say at that point.
Yeah. No. How cool would this show be if she couldn't like control her like strength?
Oh.
Like she had troubles with it. So sometimes she'd have to punch a regular person, and that fucker would literally die.
Right.
And they'd have to do something with the body, like, oh shit, she killed another one.
Like if it was something reminiscent.
Like she just throws a quick hook, but like the guy's jaw comes like off of his face.
Like it would
like dying slowly, gurgling, and she has to finish him off.
It like something reminiscent of, and you're gonna hate this illusion, but in the movie, after she first finds out she's the Slayer from Merrick, you remember she pushes Merrick, and it's just it's a light dainty little push, but he gets thrown
Slide all the way down the bench. Yeah,
right, because she doesn't realize and can't control her Slayer strength at that point. But I think if they had gone for a complete origin story, like in the beginning, that her learning how to control that would have been interesting.
Like how dark and fucked up could this show be?
Right. And now
very
and now all I want is for the Buffy reboot to be like a dark retelling reminiscent of The Boys.
Like on HBO Max,
on HBO
Netflix
Max
or something.
Right.
Like,
it's just fucking brutal.
Yep.
Yeah.
She like pushes somebody away, but like she pushes their arm and shoulder completely out of socket. And so the rest of their life, they walk around like all fucked up. And oh, dude. They come back in a later season seeking revenge. And oh, yeah.
No, where was I?
I have no fucking idea where we left off.
So yeah, she kicked him right in the mush.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
He
died.
He died.
Let's make that clear. He passed away.
We
will never see Eric for the rest of this episode because he's dead.
He is
the
dead.
End credits.
Then
Let's rate
credits.
this.
The credits roll. Let's rate this bitch. No, he ends up getting up and running away as Buffy's making sure that Cordelia's okay. And she's like, Cordelia hears music from the football field, and she's like, that's the fight song. It's time for the cheerleader pyramid. I have to go. Buffy asks if she's sure she's okay to go out there, and Cordelia's like, you don't understand. I have to go. I'm the apex.
I have to go. If I don't go, lives will be lost, Buffy Summers.
And Cordelia runs out, at which point Buffy hears a noise and looks around, and Chris walks out from the shadows, and Buffy tells him that she knows what he's trying to do, and it's wrong.
See, I know what you're doing. See,
right? You're not gonna get away with it. See, you can't keep
not
stealing
gonna get
these
away
bodies
with it this time. See,
yeah, you can't just steal bodies and build a woman. See,
look here, copper. You're never gonna catch me. See,
and Chris says he has to, I have to do this for him. He needs someone. And Buffy's like, who? Eric? He needs industrial strength therapy. And Chris is like, he always looked out for me, stood up for me. He's all alone. And everybody loved him, and he's all alone. And Buffy's like, who the fuck are you talking about? And then she realizes. And
she seems like really, really horrified by this revelation.
yeah.
And I'm like, what's so okay? He brought his brother back to life. Like, how is that more horrifying than they're cutting up dead bodies to create a fucking woman for this guy to be with? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Summers.
Yeah, you're right. But I also didn't get the impression that the look was based strictly on the idea that he brought Daryl back from the dead. I think it was more of a combination of the whole situation.
Yeah, that could be.
Like,
oh my God, you're doing this to bring a chick back for your nasty zombie brother to hump? Oh, what is wrong with this fucking school? I'm moving.
Right. She's like, I should really transfer.
I should really transfer because, damn.
So and then we cut back to Chris's basement, and Daryl's going fucking ape shit on the place, and he's yelling and throwing things and flipping shit over. He's like, you promised, I wouldn't have to be alone. Eric's trying to calm him down. He's like, it's not too late. And Eric lifts him up by the shirt, and Eric's like, we can still do this. Even if it's you and me, your brother's not the only one who can create life. And Daryl puts him down, and Eric's like, let's scare you up a date. And that would have been a commercial break, and we come back. We're still in Chris's basement.
We're in Chris's basement?
We're in Christmas basement. Lots of pretty twinkling lights, tinsel.
Silver Bells is playing.
Silver bells.
Silver bells.
Soon it will be Christmas time.
Okay, so now we have no listeners.
And Buffy and Chris they're coming down the stairs, hot to trot. And what's happening? What goes on from there, Jeremy?
Wow. Things. I don't know. Yeah, I'm completely fucked. Where did you leave off? Because I was writing something to talk about later in the show.
Buffy and Chris are now in Chris's basement immediately after Daryl and Eric have their little confrontation in Chris's basement. And Eric convinces Daryl that even if they don't have Chris's help, they can still finish building this woman for Daryl.
Oh, okay. Wow, I must be missing. I'm missing a chunk, but I think they're now in the basement.
Yeah.
And yeah, okay. And Eric is. Oh no, that's not it. Okay. We're at the football game, right?
No.
See, I'm missing something.
Okay, so you know what? This is just a little part before we get to the video game football game. So I'll just finish it off.
Okay, go ahead. Because I guess I'm missing a chunk.
So Buffy and Chris they're in Chris's basement. Buffy's looking around and yelling for Daryl, and he's not there. And she asks Chris, where could he be? And Chris is like, well, he would never go out unless. And Buffy cuts him off and says he's going to pick up where you left off. And she takes off back out of the basement, and Chris follows her, and we cut to the football game.
Yeah. And Cordy's cheering along with the rest of the cheerleaders, obviously. And Jenny and Giles are heading to their seat. They've got popcorn and a bunch of little pendants and, doodads and gadgets and whatnot.
Thingamabobs.
Yeah, they're talking, and Giles is kind of making fun of American football. He's just like, well, and she's like, what do you mean? And because she mentioned how much she loves it, and he's like, well, I just think it's funny that a country that, thinks they're so big and tough that they have to put on 40 pounds of equipment to play rugby, and which
And
is so stupid because I hate when I hear this because they're completely different sports. But anyway, I won't even go into it, but
Cause I was gonna say I agree with Giles.
no, they're completely different games. Completely. Anyway, so she's like, she says something else that annoys me. She says, "Oh well, that's not a good thing to do on a date is put down your date's pastime, the country's pastime." Which football is not America's pastime sport. That would be baseball. Football is called America's game. So anyway, some more sports stuff that annoys me.
Now football is the one where you have to score a touchdown, and baseball is the one where you run around the bases, right?
Well, you have a football bat to start with. So then he says, "Wait, did you say a date?" And she's like, "Oh, you caught that, did you?" And so he's like giddy as hell. So Willow and Xander show up, saying they didn't find anything at Eric's house, and Giles is trying to kind of get him to skedaddle so he can have some alone time with Miss Calendar, and they immediately sit down right in front of him, and Xander turns around and grabs some popcorn and starts eating. He's like, "So, what's the score?" And unbeknownst to them, Daryl is crawling under the stands. He's at the game, and he's underneath the bleachers, and he's peeking out, and he's seeing the football going on. You can tell he's really sad. It's bringing up memories and blah blah blah. Well, then he sees Cordelia, and she leaves the field and kind of goes to the side and kind of behind the bleachers where the refreshments are for the, I would assume it's Gatorade and water and whatnot. So she's got
vodka.
Yeah, it's vodka. So she goes to hydrate herself, and he of course creeps up and grabs her from behind, and Sunnydale had scored, so everybody's up screaming and cheering and everything, so nobody hears her screams when he grabs her. And then Buffy and Chris show up right about just then, and they see that Cordelia is not cheering and she's not on the field. They can't see her anywhere, so they know that something's up, yo. And we cut to commercial. When we come back, Cordy is blindfolded and restrained on basically a gurney, and in this new location, which is odd.
It's an old science lab.
Well, yeah, that comes later. They say what it is, but yeah, it's just this new creepy looking laboratory. And
again, a lot of evidence in this second episode that we have an expanded budget for the second season. A lot of new locations.
Although, have you noticed so far that anytime we're in a basement or underground, it's always the exact same set? They just redressed it.
Well, yeah.
The basement of a kid's house is always that same basement, that exact same basement. But anyway, show Daryl's in there and Eric's there, and she sees Daryl and she's like fucking creeped the fuck out, and she screams when she sees him, and she's begging for him to not do this, and Eric's telling her, scream all you want, it doesn't matter, we're in an abandoned building, nobody can hear you. And so she does, she just keeps screaming, and then he grabs I don't know, it looks like a fucking one of those things you piss in the hospital. But he raises it over his head like he's gonna bash her in the skull with it, and she's like, okay, fuck. So she shuts up.
It's a bedpan.
Yeah, it's a bed. There you go, bedpan. I don't know why I couldn't think of that. Daryl's saying, he wishes he hadn't have ignored her back in the day when she was into him, and now he appreciates her feelings. And then Eric lifts up a sheet to show her the new body that she's going to go on. And it's not going to hurt. By the time she wakes up, she's going to be, in a whole new body, the body of a 17-year-old. And I'm like, wait a minute, she's supposed to be 17 now. But he's acting like this is a huge upgrade. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like Cordelia's like, it's not like she's 53 and he's like, you're going to be in the body of a 17-year-old.
Right.
I don't know.
No, I agree. I thought it was weird too. Like you say, he's talking to her like her body is like useless and washed up and whatnot. And
don't worry, when you wake up, you'll be young again. Instead of 18, you're going to be 17.
Right. Like she's literally right. I mean, she can't be more than 18 at this point.
Yeah, well, they're juniors, so I would assume
she's right. She's 17, no more than 18.
Yeah, and he's like, but you're going to be on the body of a 17-year-old. She's like, oh, well, fuck in that case. So anyway, meanwhile, Buffy has found Cordelia's pom-poms by the water cooler. And so she's pretty sure Daryl's snatched her. And, she basically makes Eric tell her, where the fuck are they? Where would they be? Where would he have taken her? And that's when Eric tells her the abandoned science lab. So Buffy tells him to go and find Willow and Xander and bring them while she heads to the building to save Cordy, because she doesn't want Cordy to be decapitated. And what happens next, Ames J?
I don't know. I wasn't paying attention.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll take it. I'll keep going.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Back at the lab. I'm glad I'm taking this scene, actually, because there's some things in here that bug the shit out of me. So we're back at this abandoned lab, and Eric's preparing to behead Cordelia with a literal fucking butter knife. It is a butter knife. She's trying to reason with them, and they're basically just like, no, we got to cut your head off. Like, I don't understand why the fuck they have to do all this. Why don't they just keep her prisoner and make her be his,
love slave?
I didn't want to say it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, no, instead we have to slowly saw your head off with this butter knife and then reattach said head to this pieced together body over here.
So my presumption, my take on it is that Daryl, as established, won't go out in public because of how he looks.
I get it, and the whole running away thing, but
right. So my presumption is that not only does he want them to create a woman for him, because in his mind, and maybe rightly so, no woman would want to be with him because of how he looks, is also the idea that if he has a girlfriend that looks equally as horrific as he does, going out in public won't be such a big deal. See what I'm saying?
I guess. I don't know. It just, the whole thing seems very fucking shaky and stupid to me.
Because you're right. Like, this sounds weird to say, but logically speaking, just kidnapping a girl and keeping her locked in the basement would be fine. But I think
it worked well for most of the creepy serial killers in the world.
Right. But I think the idea is to create someone who is essentially just like Daryl, so that he can try and like go out. He can go out in public with someone that looks like him and not be such a distraction. Is my presumptuous thinking behind it.
The whole thing just seems stupid to me. But anyway. So yeah, she tells him that she will stay with him, no matter what, if they just don't do this. And he doesn't believe her. He's like, he knows he's grotesque and yada yada. And he figures once she's like that, she won't go out and run away, and she'll stay hidden with him forever and ever and ever, and blah blah blah. And so Eric's like, okay, let's get this done. Now, both Eric and Chris are clearly supposed to be brilliant scientific minds, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, doesn't it seem fair that there would be a much easier way to decapitate this girl than to do it while she's awake with a butter knife?
Well, yes, but I think they're at the point now where we're down to the wire. Like they've been found out.
Just knock her out really quick and chop it off with like an axe.
I'm just saying.
Okay. Well, anyway, pretty fucking brutal. Like, so Daryl, holds her still, and Eric is getting ready to start sawing with the literal butter knife. Just then, of course, Buffy breaks in. Eric spins, and in a moment of athleticism, throws the knife at Buffy, but she catches it because she's the fucking Slayer. And then he immediately runs and hides. And Buffy tells Daryl that, Chris sent her to stop him. And he's like, no, he'd never do that. He's my brother, blah, blah, blah. And so he runs over and grabs a fucking saw and runs back to Cordy to just hurry up and saw her head off. And of course, Buffy runs up and knocks the saw out of his hand and punches the shit out of him. And they start going back and forth. Xander and Willow get there about that time. Xander runs over to help Cordy. And about this time, there's a gasoline can, for whatever reason, full of gas sitting in there that gets knocked over while Buffy and Daryl are fighting. And gas, of course, starts pouring out on the floor. Oh, there also happens to be a Bunsen burner going for reasons.
Well, no, didn't he initially warm up the knife in the flame of the Bunsen burner?
Yeah, but why?
Okay. To make cutting through her neck easier.
Oh, so he also put gloves on.
Right. Right.
Okay, yeah. So then, of course, said Bunsen burner gets knocked over.
Sorry. I was just saying, not only to make cutting through easier, but also to cauterize the wound as he's cutting.
Okay. I got you now. So yeah, now there's a big fire raging. Excuse me. And Xander is struggling with the bonds, trying to get Cordelia free. At one point, Daryl basically gets the upper hand on Buffy. He picks her up and does an actual professional wrestling body slam to her, and she is pretty much done. And he grabs this chair, like a school chair, and he's gonna finish her off, and he rears back with it, and he's about to come down, and that's when Chris comes in and screams his name, and he's like, no, don't do it. And for whatever reason, he stops. So at this point, okay, I'm just gonna lay it out how it happened, because there's just no explaining it. He puts the desk down. He's not going to do it. He looks up and sees the cart. I'm sorry. Xander couldn't get Cordelia free, so he ends up just throwing his body onto hers on the cart and pushing it out and riding it out like a surfboard, basically.
Right.
So
through the flames.
Right. So now they're safe. Giles and Willow have picked up the unconscious Eric and drug him out, so they're safe. And then Daryl sees the stitched together female corpse that doesn't have a head. It's laying over there, and it's beginning to become engulfed by flames, and he knows it's over. And he's like, no, and he runs over there, and he he climbs on top of it, and he's laying on top of it, and it just looks funny, the camera shot, like he's humping pillows or something. I don't know. And he says, we'll always be together. Oh, and the flames engulf them both. And Buffy, who's now regained her senses, holds Chris back because he's wanting to run in and save his brother. And so, yeah, it's over. The guy just burned himself to death. It was just, we'll discuss it, but it's stupid. So stupid. So after this is all over, now of course all the police and the fire trucks and everything are there, and Buffy sits down to talk to Chris, and just about then Angel gets there, and he's like, I saw the fire and assumed you were here. Is everybody okay? And she's like, yeah, we're fine. And then we cut to Giles bringing a couple of probably cups of coffee up to Jenny, and hands Jenny one and apologizes for how the evening went. And I got a clip, and I'll just go ahead and play the clip and let that speak for itself.
Sorry about all this.
It's okay. Although a good rule of thumb for a first date is don't do anything so exciting that it'll be hard to top on the second date.
Believe it or not, since I moved here to live on top of the Hellmouth, the events of this evening actually qualify as a slow night. Did you just say second date?
You noticed that, huh?
So they're apparently going to have a second date.
Good on Giles.
Good on G-Man. Never called me that. Xander and Willow are walking together, complaining about how even vampires and school librarians can get dates, but they never seem to be able to. And just then Cordelia comes up to Xander, and she's like being really sweet and kind, and she's like, what you did was heroic, and I want to thank you if there's ever anything I can do. And he's like, yeah, do you mind we're talking here? And she's like, wow, okay. So she just turns around and leaves, and they continue talking about how they can never find love. And so yeah, that covers that scene, and there's one scene left. If you want me to,
I'll take it. So we cut to the cemetery, and Angel and Buffy are taking a romantic stroll through the tombstones.
Yes.
Angel's wearing his tan jacket that you love so much still.
Mm-hmm. He's also wearing a pair of khakis and some Dockers because he's 58.
They're talking about how Buffy's talking about how the whole thing's creepy, but at the same time, Chris did do it for his brother, and Angel's like, seems like he took it over the edge, and Buffy says love makes you do the wacky, and Angel questions what she means, and she just says crazy stuff, and he says, like a 241-year-old being jealous of a high school junior. And Buffy asks if he's fessing up, and he says he thought about it and maybe it bothers him a little, and she says she doesn't love Xander. And Angel gives this little monologue about how maybe, but he gets to be a part of her life. He gets to be there when he can't, and take her classes and eat her meals and hear her jokes and complaints, and Xander gets to see her in the sunlight. And Buffy's like, I don't look that good in direct light. And Angel comments that it'll be morning soon, and Buffy says she should probably go, but she could walk him home. And they give each other a look, and Credits roll.
They're obviously going to his place to fuck.
Wow.
I'm just calling it like it is. The look they gave each other.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
No,
He is
no.
going to deflower a 17-year-old.
No,
and he's 241.
Not yet. He's not. I mean, no, he's not.
Yeah. All right, James. Let's rate. Oh, what?
Hold on just a minute.
You interrupted me to tell me to hold on.
Yeah, because you do this every week. We're not at the rating portion yet.
Well, we are on my fucking format.
We are at, where are we at? We are at this week's Monsterology.
We always did rates before.
No, we didn't.
We did rates, then goofs, gaffs, deleted scenes, body count, then mythology. So you, sir, can go and fuck yourself.
I will have to check the transcripts from last season. I'm not sure that's adequate.
Can you see the podcast, the format?
Well, that's last season. This is now.
Oh, you motherfucker. All right. Well, okay, go ahead. Go ahead and do your thing. We'll mix it up. We'll go crazy with it.
Well, this is how we did it last week. So
okay, yeah, that's fine. Go ahead. Well, you'll have to run this thing because I don't have your version of the format. So it's in the easy for you to say.
It's in the drafts email of our email account.
Oh yeah, I'm far too lazy. Fuck about logging into that.
All right, Monsterology for this week. Obviously, this episode clearly heavily influenced by 1818's Frankenstein by Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley. Probably
yes.
What?
And the modern Prometheus.
Right. Probably more specifically though, 1935's Bride of Frankenstein, and definitely hints of 1985's Weird Science.
Weird Science.
Yes, such a good
greatest
movie.
Cinematic event ever.
Well, we can discuss that another time.
I'm just kidding. I did love it though.
Oh, I love it too. Our body count this week is 2. That's it.
Really?
Just 2 bodies. Yep.
Well, if you count the three girls that got killed, the car accident.
Okay, I guess.
But I guess that did actually technically happen 2 weeks prior, so before the episode. So okay, I got you. I'll let it slide this time.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Our behind the scenes this week. Where are we? So this is the first episode to use Anthony Stewart Head for the opening teaser instead of the generic WB announcer voice for both the Previously On and In Every Generation teasers for Buffy.
The opening prologue, you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
And the football stadium featured in the episode is the football stadium at West High School in Torrance, California. This is the first time that Ms. Calendar's first name is revealed.
Is it?
Yep.
I'll be damned.
Yep.
That's right, because she says to him at one point, well, just call me Jenny.
Yep.
That's right. Yep.
The episode pulled a Nielsen rating of 3.2 million households when it originally aired.
That was, people that don't know ratings out there, trust me, that was good back then.
Yeah.
Very good.
If you're not familiar with how that works, certain households are picked to have, I think they still use, it's actually a physical.
They don't.
Oh, they don't?
Yeah,
they
ratings
don't.
And like quarter share stuff, everything has changed so much.
Has it?
that this doesn't even really register anymore with people because they don't understand it. But yeah, basically that means 3.2 million households, and they considered each household 2.5 people.
Right.
So you figure 2.5 times 3.2 million. That's roughly how many people were watching this episode. That's a fuckload.
Right. And like I was gonna say, and obviously, like you said, they don't do it like this anymore, presumably because
So much streaming.
Right. How people watch has changed, but I believe back then there was actually a physical box that they gave to Nielsen households,
and you weren't allowed to tell anyone that you had it.
Right.
That you were a Nielsen household.
Right. And that's how they got their rating statistics.
And I believe they paid you. You got like a stipend every month.
Right.
Like $50 or something a month for doing it. So and all you had to do was literally just watch TV, whatever you were going to normally watch.
Right. So that's something else to keep in mind with these ratings. That's just 3.2 million households that were Nielsen households.
Right.
So however many other households that didn't have the Nielsen box, to keep track of it. But our bronze band this week, none. We weren't even in the bronze at all this week.
Sure weren't.
Our music this week,
none. We didn't have any music this week.
Just the original score, as composed by Christoph Beck, Sean Clement, Sean Murphy, and Adam Fields. Goof 'em ups and oopsies.
Goof 'em ups and oopsies.
And I put this on here. I don't really know if it is one or if it was intentional. It could go either way. So in the library, when Cordelia is monologuing about her pain and Giles gives her that little pat on the back and says, "They're there," you can see her say thanks, but there's no audio.
Yeah. No ADR there.
Right. The newspaper clipping of the cheerleaders from Fondant High, they all have a big letter J on their sweaters, which
it's J for Fondom.
yeah,
I mean,
clearly.
Honestly.
So I have that listed here too, because like why you would presume it would be a big F, but
no,
whatever.
That wouldn't make any sense, James.
And that's all I have for all our categories there. Do you have anything, Jeremy?
Actually, I have just a couple of things.
Please hit me.
Angel reveals in this episode that he is 241 years old. The old science building where they were for the
finale
end of the episode, that was at the school. Okay, and that was the original science building that was destroyed basically during the earthquake of 37, the one that trapped the master underground.
Okay.
Again, this is the one and only time we see Angel in that stupid fucking jacket. So that's a good thing. And that's all I've got.
Okay. All right. So tell me then, Jeremy, how many reanimated brother corpses would you give this episode?
I'm going to give it a 3. I'm going to give it 3 reanimated brother corpses.
Okay.
Because it's a fun, I don't know, I'm soft. I'm really soft with season 2, and you know why.
I do know why.
And it's, these episodes are just, even the ones that are cheesy or that have, problems, I would say, still, they're just little fun episodes. They're not meant for anything earth-shattering or mythology changing or anything. They're just little fun kind of episodes, and they're still a little bit trying to find what their show is about, kind of thing. And so I'm going to give it a 3. I thought about a 2.5, but there's enough funny little quips and stuff in here, and some good action, that I'm going to bump it up and give it a 3. The only real complaint I have about the episode, other than the little things we nitpick as we're going along, but I never consider those like big issues. But this is my biggest issue with this episode, is that they never explain how or why these two high school kids are able to bring people back to life.
Right.
Never.
Right.
They never say, okay, is it magic? Is it some type of, demonic based? Are they fucking Jesus? They literally just bring people back to life. And it's apparently only these two know how to do it.
Right.
So yeah, that bugs the shit out of me. Other than that, I give it a 3.
All right.
James.
Yes, sir.
How many Slayers would you give this episode? Because I can't think of anything.
I am going to give this episode 2 Slayers.
Oh, wow.
One of them may be a dead Slayer. Because
wow.
This episode is trash.
Tell us how you really feel, James. Don't hold back.
This is such a downgrade from the season premiere, which I already had issues with.
You weren't a big fan of the season premiere.
This felt, and I'll get into this after I say this, because I didn't mention it in my behind the scenes. This felt like a season 1 episode.
Yeah, it did. It definitely did.
And that is because this episode was produced back in season 1.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You can tell by Buffy's hair.
Yeah, that too. So yeah. I know you're a little more forgiving because it is season 2. I tend to think that that's going to make me a little harsher on episodes.
You're going to be the exact opposite dick about this episode or about this season.
Than I was
of this season.
In season 1, because I cut a lot of slack in season 1 because it was a new show. It was a mid-season replacement. They were trying to find themselves in a limited episode run. So for them to come back in the second season and with a bigger budget, with better talent in place behind the scenes, and to run this first season trash at us.
This was made during the first season,
right? So
you gotta keep that in mind.
It's just not a good episode to me. It does have its redeeming qualities. There's a lot of great dialogue and funny lines in it. I like it when writers try to give their spin on classic horror or sci-fi stories, which obviously they did here with Frankenstein. So it does earn some redemption points there from me. But overall, I'm just not a fan of it. I would skip it.
Oh yeah.
So.
I would. No, this is definitely not a must-see episode by any means. The greatest thing is that it gave us, vegan zombies. So
right. Speaking of which, I did manage to find, which is why I lost my place where we were earlier. So zombies in the Buffyverse are strictly mindless undead creatures capable of certain physical actions, such as walking and killing. The corpses can be reanimated through resurrection, or possession, or voodoo. They according to Giles, they're not known for eating flesh. Anya claimed that real zombies don't eat human flesh unless instructed to by their masters. And Wesley at one point tells Gunn that the stereotype of flesh-eating zombies is nothing but a myth, and that they typically merely only mangle, mutilate, and sometimes wear human flesh, but never eat it. So,
well, I love how it's specifically stated in that you're reading that they're able to do certain actions like walking and killing.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah.
So apparently the take on zombies in the Buffyverse is more of a, for lack of a better term, quote unquote, real world take on the idea of zombies created through voodoo curses, in which they're just mindless beings that do whatever they're instructed to do by a higher master. But so
I can live with that.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I think that does it for us for this episode. Do you have anything else?
I don't have anything. Nothing at all. How about you?
No. I'm glad this episode's over. And we can move on to bigger and better things.
Bigger and better things. We want to thank you for joining us this week, as you do every week. Join us next week for Season 2, Episode 3, School Hard, which happens to be my favorite episode. I've been one of your hosts. I'm Jeremy.
Well, hold on a minute. Let's not forget to let everybody know that they can find us on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok and Twitter, at Slade Podcast on all platforms. Email us at buffyrevisited@gmail.com. Hit us up at buffyrevisited.com. It'll have links, easy links to all our accounts. Like I said, on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok.
Thank you, James. And we would really like for you guys to reach out to us.
Yes.
In any way, shape, or form at this point.
Because, frankly, I'm tired of talking to Jeremy every week.
Right. I'm tired of hearing my own voice. All right. So with that being said, I've been one of your hosts. I'm Jeremy.
I'm your other host, James.
Ta-ta.